Okay, today we're going to talk about corneal ulcers in dogs in particular. We see corneal ulcers on a pretty regular basis. I mean, we saw them like probably, 3 days after I got out of vet school. I mean, you'd run into dogs that had corneal ulcers. Here's what a corneal ulcer is. Dogs run through stuff. They fight with the family cat. They do all sorts of stuff. And sometimes they get little punctures or tears in this cornea. That's the outside of the eye that you see that's clear, okay? And it's kind of shaped like this. And in fact, really, sometimes what we think is that it's just one thin layer. Well, it's not. It's all these little layers like this, okay? Very complicated. So what happens is you have a physical injury to this eye, and essentially what happens is you're going to take a couple of the layers off, okay? Okay. And the eye is still intact, but it's been injured. So now it's going to try to heal itself, but it's really sore as the devil. And so what we do, we'll stain this eye, and I'm going to use the green pen because we actually use a green dye to stain these. And we'll stain this eye, and the stain will stick right there. It doesn't stick to the outside layer of the cornea, but it sticks to the lower levels of the cornea, and you'll get a nice little green stain that occurs. That means you have a corneal ulcer. So what are we going to do with a corneal ulcer? We're going to put you on topical antibiotics. Lots of times we're going to put you on pain meds. Might put you on a non-steroidal carprofen or something like that. And then we'll put you on maybe even some antiserum from the dog, where we actually collect blood and separate it out, and then we use the serum to treat the eye. And lots of times if we think they're going to have problems here, we can put these dogs on antibiotics. I think most of us, our favorite one is probably doxycycline. But these things will then go ahead and try to fill in and heal. And when it heals, then you'll have the black part over the top, and there will no longer be any staining. Now, this is all good and well, but this is not the way they all go. And some of the times you'll get infection in these, and you get what's called a melting ulcer, which means it'll melt right through the cornea, and you'll lose that eye. So when your veterinarian sees that you have a corneal ulcer, your dog has a corneal ulcer, and you need to treat them appropriately. Some of these are man-made. Every once in a while, somebody decides their dog rolled in something dead, so they're going to use Dawn dish soap to do that, to treat that dog, and they get some of that Dawn dish soap in the eye, and that's a problem. And that's what sometimes causes cornea. My family one time took our dog Sam down to the barn and gave him a shampoo, and he got a corneal ulcer. And the worst thing is he rubbed his face on the carpet and on the side of the furniture and everything, and he made a bad situation a lot worse. Okay, so what I'm here to tell you today is these can be treated, and if your dog's squinting and looking like this because his eye's a problem, you go into the veterinarian's office. A lot of times they'll measure the number of tears you have, they'll stain the eye, and they'll check the pressure in that eye. You do the entire, usually do the entire ophthalmic assessment, and you'll see that this little fluorescein dip right here, and we'll put those guys on antibiotics lots of times, 4, 5, 6 times a day, topically, and a lot of these guys will heal right up. Some of them don't. And the ones that don't are what we call indolent ulcers. And really what happens there is this tries to heal, and it comes up a little like this, and it keeps these cells from coming in. So then we have to sometimes take a diamond burr and kind of roll those off, and a lot of times there's a lot of fooling around with getting these things to heal. So they're important that you have those looked at. Dogs only have 2 eyes, and you want to make sure they live their entire life with 2 eyes. So when they have ophthalmic problems, try not to guess what it is, and go in to see your veterinarian and have them do an assessment, see what's going on. It could be any one of a number of things. I think the one thing I want to remind people, though, is that every once in a while I'll look at a dog that has conjunctivitis, which means it has inflammation of the sclera of the eyes. The eyes are red. Sometimes this time of year when you have pollen, getting in the eyes, or house dust, or those sorts of things, these eyes become kind of pink. And I may send you home an antibiotic with a steroid in it to take care of that eye. Now, the problem is that takes care of the eye. There, all the pollination's over with. We could use the drops, but you set the drops up in the cupboard, and then when you get one of these corneal ulcers, you decide you're going to use those drops. Cannot do that. Absolutely cannot do that, because there's steroid in that drop in. That steroid will keep this from healing. In fact, it'll make it a lot worse. So just because you got something, you didn't use all of it up, you don't want to just go ahead and indiscriminately start putting stuff in there. So never put a steroid in a dog's eye without knowing exactly what you're putting it in there for. A lot of times if we have those dogs come in with red eyes, we stain the eye, make sure there's no stain uptake, then we know it's just probably an inflammatory response. So we'll put you on antibiotics and we'll put you on steroid in that eye. But these things are a mess. In fact, they're one of those things after you're looking at that dog for the 7th time, it's like, you're like, is this going to get better? Yes, they'll get better. You just have to be patient. Lots of them have to wear collars. You have to administer the medication appropriately. Most of them will get better, but you absolutely cannot put steroids in a dog's eye that has a corneal ulcer. So the thing that caused the corneal ulcer in the first place may have been, using Dawn dish soap or a cat scratch, or got in a fight with the other dog or something like that. But if you have medication laying around that has steroids, you're going to try to treat it with that, big mistake. Consult your veterinarian before you put stuff in the eyeball. I'm all right with the shampoo stuff and everything. Every once in a while you're doing stuff without our permission, but this is not one of those things. So all I'm trying to show you today is how not to screw this up. Good luck.